All right, let's get this started, man. It's 6:32 episode. What episode is this, Mike?
17.
Episode 17. Welcome out, Columbus DJ Podcast. I appreciate you guys, DJ Flair, DJ Birdman. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Thank you.
I really like these podcasts for many reasons, but one of the reasons is I get to catch up with old friends. I haven't talked to you guys in a long time. Mainly because you guys are always DJing somewhere else. So I'm DJing somewhere else. So we barely stop in each other's venues. But,
Right.
you know, this podcast has really allowed us to reconnect and, you know, hopefully bring the Columbus DJ community back together. What's up? What's up, Bobby Boucher?
Oh, Bobby Boucher from the last episode. That's good.
Yeah, man.
He'll be here. Hey, man, I hope you've been practicing your flips, Bobby.
That means Birdman and Flair have to tune in next episode, though.
I like that.
Okay.
But
So we're live from Hogwarts and King's Landing and
my brand new penthouse apartment where it's apparently midday.
okay.
Yeah,
I'm
Mike's
still-
out of Dubai right now.
I'm still renting.
Yeah. But hey, how was your weekend last week with Rusty, man? The second best light guy.
Oh my gosh! Congratulations to my best friend got married. Rusty, I love you, dude.
Congratulations.
You guys have met Rusty probably. He used to
Oh,
be my
yeah.
light guy and used to. I mean, we still get drunk
He
together.
was your
but,
friend before he was your light guy, bro.
yeah, but I
Hey,
just know.
it's
I
Rusty.
know that they met him when he was doing lights.
Right.
But we had a great weekend. We did the Brew Dog in Canal, and then we.
Oh, nice.
What else we do? They got a Short North Airbnb, and they came out to Dahlia. I hooked them up with some bottles.
Nice.
It's
Tell
fun.
Rusty, I said, hey, congratulations, buddy.
Did you
Oh.
play Tits on a Tricycle for him?
No, but I did play some Green Velvet for him because that's his
yeah.
guy.
Did
What
he
up,
bring his
Zach
hat?
Lowe? No, he didn't.
Hey, tell Fear and Low that they need to start producing tracks and putting them out so we can feature them on the podcast. We haven't had something since their last one. What was it, Fallen? Have you guys released
I'm
anything
pretty sure
since
that he
Fallen?
has released something after that. He just didn't tell us because he doesn't like to be promoted.
Oh, actually, Intel, who I've been talking about for years to get on MailChimp, I got a MailChimp from him on Tuesday that he had a new release. So guys, come up with the MailChimp. If you're releasing songs, if you're putting out mixtapes, do a MailChimp so that people actually see your stuff because the algorithm is crazy. And sometimes, you know, you're competing with like these, you know, big booty fitness instructors and, you know, that's always on my feed and I want to see your mixes and your other stuff on the feed. So what's up, Richie? Love
makes a
from
lot of sense,
513.
Chang is in the building.
Oh, God.
We got them all.
Oh boy. They're letting everybody in this podcast. Actually, I want to get started. So let's start with Flair. You got a lot of stuff to talk about, man. You've been in the game a long time. Introduce yourself. Tell us what you do. And yeah, man. It's all yours.
Yeah, man. So for starters, my name's Adam, but DJ Flair is what my DJ name is. I started in 98. And I mean, I could probably talk forever about my story, but I'll keep it short and simple. I came in at the beginning of the Napster age, and so was able to download a bunch of music at the very beginning of that and have a huge library to enter in the marketplace with. So that's kind of where I started back in the late 90s. Still do it today. I did every club, bar. I've probably done more bars and clubs that have closed over those 22 years than most people have that are still open. But, you know, I've been blessed to do everything from professional sport events to travel across the world on a cruise ship and DJ for them. So right now I pretty much focus on the mobile industry because I took over the years, I finally realized that you spend all these years learning these skills and you could just kind of let them do their own thing and disappear, or you could try to convert that into a business opportunity. And so taking it from the bar and the club scene where you're working every weekend for one client continuously to the public sector where now I'm getting hired by multiple clients in consecutive weeks, you're a little bit more in control of your situation. So I turned my direction there a few years back. And so all I do pretty much exclusively is mobile and corporate gigs. I wish I had started that direction a little bit earlier, because even at 18, I had a teammate in college whose mother straight up told me, said, you should just be a DJ. I looked at her like, girl, I'm in school. What do you mean? I got a degree to get in a job. And it wasn't until I got to be in my mid-30s when I fully went focused on it. And so here I am.
And Flair, when you say teammate, I know what you're talking about, but I think that's a big part of your come up as well, man. Talk about, you know, being a college athlete is nothing to kind of gloss by like that.
Yeah. So I was a gymnast for Ohio State from 98 through 2002. And we had a really good team. I had come in on the back of some great teams prior. They were 96 national champions. I graduated in 98. So for me to join this, you know, big pond as a little duck was really exciting. But instantly I found a niche with music because one of the people who was associated with the team had, he worked for Battelle back in the late 90s. Now, mind you, this was all new technology back then. I was one of the only people in the dorms that had digital music, that had one random ass person who had the one CD burner in all of Columbus at Battelle. So I got known my freshman year through the athletics, basically, you know, hey, this freshman on our team, he's got some good music. Hey, this gymnast over at, you know, for Ohio State, he's a freshman, he's rocking Lidos this weekend. Let's go check him out. So that athletic connection really helped branch my networking. But I started off truthfully burning mix CDs for everybody. It became known as the CD guy at, you know, early in my, well, I'd say it was late 98. So like August, September, October, 98. And then I got my first bar gig at the end of 98 because one of my college gymnast teammates was a bartender at Lido's. Said, yo, my guy can DJ, bring him in. So I brought in my hard drive and plugged it into the actual computer, to the mixing board, and learned how to mix on their CDs. And then the second year there, my sophomore year, I had a teammate come from Texas that actually had turntables. So that's where I got like a cornucopia of training. Like I learned on actual turntables. I learned on the CD decks that were above me at Lido's. I learned about digital music and was able to burn it through my connections. And so, and then eventually, you know, I met other DJs that got me gigs and so on. Like you said, Samurai earlier, I'd love to hear him talk because he was one of my main influences. Him, Tommy D, Quantum, Chuck B, those were guys that early on gave me opportunities to spin and host parties and run their microphone and carry their bags. I mean, I remember carrying Samurai's records up and down Carlisle Club, you know? So,
dang, dude.
Yeah,
And,
dude.
So how long have you been DJing then?
23 years now.
Okay.
Going into year 23. I started at 18 professionally. So
Got you.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
That's crazy because
You're up there with Surge's duration.
dude.
Hey, Flair, talk about your mobile business some more, man. Like, because you don't just do DJing. You've added, it sounds like photography and a couple other things. So you're almost doing like the whole day within your company. Talk about that, because I don't think that's something a lot of DJs do, and I think that's something that they could do, especially now, to kind of diversify where they're getting their money from.
Yeah. So here's what it kind of boils down to. When I was in gymnastics, I knew immediately when I got to college, this is a 4-year deal. There's no professional gymnastics league. You spend your whole life learning these skills, and either you make or break it in the Olympics or bust, right? So the minute I became a DJ, my first thought was, I don't want to learn these set of skills and then not be able to use them for the rest of my life. So what am I going to do to further that DJ career? So from the very beginning, I had the idea of trying to expand and add in more things, because why not? Problem is, I didn't know how to do it right. There's a way to go and acquire new things and then try to sell them, versus someone looks at you and acquires you and wants to sell you. Okay. So going to school for business, I remember learning about supply and demand, right? We all know about supply and demand. And for me, when that supply of what I was offering and the demand of people that wanted what I was getting hit right in the middle, that's when I met the right partners, okay? And those business partners have been able to sell my skills that when I was in the bar, they overlooked. I mean, let's be real. I love my bartenders. I love my managers. I love the owners. But, you know, they don't care so much about your skills at the end of the day. Your opinions are not valuable. that one manager who's run the same bar for 8 years will throw that in your face. But when you say over those 8 years, I've been in and played for over 200 bars, don't you think that opinion might be worth listening to? So eventually you get tired of dealing with that. You go into your own business, taking those skills. And once they're recognized by good partners, now we're able to sell other items. You know, we're able to suggest to a client who first comes in for photography why the DJ is so important and not just an iPad. Or the bride that comes to us for a photo booth, why they need, instead of this venue who's not really helping them with COVID compliance, maybe to do an outdoor tent with more table space. That's what we're providing. So we've looked at ways to kind of fill the gaps with what's being left for right now, on top of expanding the skills that we've already acquired to be more valuable to others. You know what I'm talking about? So I hope that wasn't too long-winded. Sometimes I get that way, I guess, but you know, it's a passion I have. I want to make sure I get everything detailed when I explain that stuff, you know, so.
No, man, I think that's good.
Yeah, I love it.
James, you want to hop over to Birdman?
Yeah, Birdman, tell us a little bit where you got started.
Oh man.
What you like to play. You're an open format DJ, but explain what
Birdman.
Oh my god. Is it gonna be like that the entire podcast?
It is.
Every time I
Just
say
might be,
Birdman.
brother.
Okay.
I used to make fun of your name. I'm used to it now.
Oh, all the time. All the time. I remember. Don't worry. All right, so I'm Cody, DJ Birdman. I'm thinking about switching it just to Cody Bird, to be honest with you, and just kind of get rid of the Birdman, do a little bit of rebranding. I reached out to Paul out in Los Angeles.
Shout out to Jeopardy, Jeps.
Yeah. Yeah, I miss him. But yeah, I started about roughly 5-6 years ago. To be honest, I just started going out when I was about like 19 years old. And I remember going to like patio. That's when Cantina Wednesdays was a big thing. Long Street on Fridays. So James was pretty much at all those places, and Corruption Productions were really up and running at that point. And I remember James was the first person I talked to, like in the industry. And I was so damn scared. I don't know why. Like, it was just like, I'd see him every weekend. I would always go out, and it's not that I was like intimidated or he was intimidating. It was just like, wow, I'd really love to do what he does. I don't know how to like approach him. And I must've just caught him on a good night. And I was like, hey, like, I'm kind of like a bedroom DJ. I'd love to kind of just, you know, shadow and stay back and just, you know, watch and observe. And he was willing to do so. And then he let me kind of play around, like opening one summer. At the same time, I met B-Rob at Sugar Bar 2. And I kind of did the same thing, and I just started learning, and I met all the right people. The first night I was at Sugar Bar 2, I guess Magic was playing too. I don't remember, because B-Rob fed me with, I don't even know what kind of mint vodka. Rumple Mints is what it was. It was Rumple Mints. He would always make me go get a shot. And every time I was like, bro, the bartender won't like give me anything. And he was like, oh, just tell him it's for me. I was like, I tried that last time. But anyways, but I started there and just kind of worked my way. And what I didn't even realize was I jumped through so many hoops all at once. And I didn't realize that until years down the road. I met the right people. I didn't realize how important those relationships were until much, much longer down the road. Eventually, I started opening at Sway with James. I would always open before him through so many countless shows that taught me so much experience. Before that, I started learning how to do lights, so I can, you know, kind of do a little bit of both. And then, yeah, so I'm mostly in bars. I was at Bullwinkle's for about 3 years. There's new ownership. We parted ways. So now I work with A&R with Chang, or under Chang, I would say, with Ethel, Midway, and 4th Street.
I got to tell a funny story about you, Cody. My first experience meeting you, Cody, was, do you remember this?
No.
All right. First off, am I allowed to cuss on this podcast?
Yeah, man.
All right. So this was so funny because James had just left the patio. And I think you were switching to Cantina or Dahlia. I don't remember where you were, but I was now the head DJ there. And Cody, the first night I go in, I remember you had like helped open for him occasionally, and you come in and you're on the decks. And I remember I looked over, I'm like, who in the fuck is this kid? Right? I was like, who is this kid? Because I never met you. And then it was like, oh, hey, I'm Cody, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it was perfect because every every resident DJ loves to have an opener. So it was perfect because Cody instantly was like, dude, I play on the same shit you play on. I want to learn the system. Like, as long as you don't mind me coming on between 11 and midnight after I've smoked a couple joints and drank some beers, and we're fine, brother.
Oh, allegedly.
Allegedly, but that's not what I ever did. We just made those,
Right.
Just makes the story sound cooler.
This makes it sound
Well,
cool.
I'll tell you what, I remember you were pretty adamant about learning from me, and you were very respectful approaching me, and not pushing. And I think I was so used to people just kind of like feeling entitled all the time. So it was kind of a breath of fresh air when you approached me to actually learn and not overstep. So I remember specifically how that went. And you did a lot of nice things too. You helped carry equipment. You helped deal with sound issues.
Yeah.
You helped keep guys off the stage. I mean, patio was literally out of control, so we needed all that kind of stuff. We needed all the help we could get.
We just had a foldable table, and that's all the protection we had.
Yeah, I mean, FLAIR, I'm sure it was the same. I know it was the same for you out there.
And I was always a solution-driven guy, so I'd always come up with solutions that would get turned down because we're just a DJ. What do you know? Oh, you're right. I'm the DJ who is about to lose a $1,200 laptop because we're not putting a fence in front of the DJ booth table and preventing a beer from being spilled on it. Those kind of things. So I dealt with it just as much. Yeah, we all did, man. I mean, I literally one time, not there, but at the Varsity Club, had a girl jump up on stage, reach over the tables while I was down mixing, grab me by my shirt, and pull me on the table and try to rip me off the front of the stage. So the more help in the DJ booth or friends, the better. So, Cody, it was great to have somebody new that was always there to help out. So props to you for that, man.
I love being there. I learned from every different bar and every different DJ that I worked with and met. For the most part, we became really good friends. And everyone taught me different things. So James, he taught me obviously from the very beginning. B-Rob did the same too. I kind of worked with both of them for a long time. B-Rob taught me how to DJ on turntables. Corrupt finally stopped making me use the damn controller and forced me to learn CDJs at Sway, even though I was so scared. There was one night, I think I was opening before Davey C, and I tried to bring my controller in like I always did, and it was before a show, and James would always let me set up my stuff over like on the side, and Davey C wouldn't let me. And I called James and I was like, dude, like, I don't know how to play. And James was like, just use your damn flash drive. Like, just do it.
Look,
like,
man,
you need to do it. Like, just do it. And then he, helped me and taught me through that. So I do like the fact that I'm able to play off of basically anything and everything. That's one of the few things I pride myself off of, is no matter what bar I go to, whether I use my own equipment or whether I go and do like a silent disco or something like that, I can play on whatever you throw at me.
Shout out to Davey C. He makes me nervous when I used to play with him, so don't worry about it. But talk about, I just want to hear about Bullwinkle's, because you did most of your career there. I feel like I never experienced Bullwinkle's. I don't think I played there once, and I know that it was always a crazy party. Yeah. And I have no idea. I just I would see funny memes and stuff about Bullwinkle's. Tell me what it was like playing there.
It was wild. So I started running the lights, and then I moved up to playing on game days, and then I moved up to opening, and then through the rotation of DJs and over years got my own night and everything like that. It was hectic. It was chaotic. I missed the original nights of Bulls. It's so, you can get away with so much. You could, obviously you still have to know how to hold a crowd. You still have to be able to read a crowd, but just in a much larger capacity. So if you lose a few people here and there, that's not a big deal because we have a line all the way down the damn street. So that wasn't too big of a deal, but you really got to experiment with what could work and couldn't work. And it was also really challenging because it's a huge warehouse. I think it was the capacity legally was 900. I don't even want to know how many people we fit in there before. But
dude, I hated playing in there with you guys, honestly, because
I loved it.
I hated it because without a bucket to piss in. It was impossible to take a bathroom break. Fuck.
That was the downside.
Dang,
it was
man,
all the
really?
way across the bar.
And you
like,
would jump, and you would
directly
jump over the
across.
edge and try to go out the back door, and the guy would let you. And then 3 minutes later, you're knocking on the door, and he's like, "Who are you?" Like, dude, I'm the DJ. I'm just peeing out the back door. Oh, yeah, all right.
It was the same way. Ask Rusty how I used to go to the bathroom when I DJ'd at Park Street Saloon.
Oh,
Just
man.
ask him. We're not going to talk about it.
God.
But yeah,
I'm just picturing like Rusty like holding Corrupt's hand on the way to the bathroom, and then like being like, "Okay, James, it's right here, buddy."
Put it this
I'll
way:
be
I didn't
right
go
here.
to the bathroom. Okay.
Yeah. Learn how to hold it.
But
But yeah,
Cody, I want to ask you,
Yeah.
what can people like? What's your like signature like? Not your signature move. I'm playing too much Pokemon. What can people like expect when they come see you spin, man? Like just talk about like your style. Like what's like what like makes a Birdman set different?
Yeah, so music-wise, I mean, obviously it depends on the bar. What I really like about playing with A&R is that it's a different experience no matter where you go. So Midway, you're going to play a million times different than you are at Ethel. And the same with 4th Street. You know, you can get away with so much more. And then, you know, to include when we start playing at Block, you know, the parking lot in between Ethel and Midway, it's just an absolute riot. So every single bar, and you're at a different place, different night, music-wise, it could be different. I like pushing it and pushing my limits, and pushing the crowd's limits as well without losing them. Because once you lose them, it's so hard to get them back. You can tell over time eventually when you're starting to lose people, and as long as you can grab them back with something, you know, popular or a sing-along or anything like that, then you can do that. But playing ridiculous sing-alongs is what I've really liked to do lately, and honestly, Chang really got me into that.
Yep.
I love just dropping Before He Cheats by Carrie Underwood right in the middle of the night. And it's so obnoxious. And the first time I heard Chang do it, I stole the idea from Chang. The first time I heard him do it, I was like, what the hell are you doing? And all of a sudden the bar was erupting and the roof was blowing off.
Hey, Cody, I got news for you.
What?
Us 22-year vets have been doing that for a long time.
Well, you know, and some of it I had to. Yeah, and some of it I had to learn the hard way. When I was at Bulls 2-3 nights a week, it's very easy when you're at the same place multiple nights in a week to not necessarily play the same set, but you have the same essentially, you know, folders of music, and you always have your go-to. So sometimes you do get a little bit too comfortable. I think no matter where you go or where you play, it can happen without you even realizing it. So switching from bar to bar really made me open up my library, you know, start digging a lot more and doing all that.
What do you guys think about that? Is there, because obviously, you know, we're trying to make the bar money. That's goal number one.
Sure.
And we want to do that with the songs that, you know, get people the most energy, get people to buy the most bottles, whatever it is. So maybe there's some, obviously when people say you play the same sets all the time, it sounds like a bad thing. But if those sets are making the bars money, then maybe that's a good thing. What do you guys think? And James, I want to hop over to you for that, because you probably have the most experience with just like, you know, you probably know the sales numbers better than most people. What do you think about, you know, playing the same sets versus diversifying sets, sacrificing sales? Do you think they go hand in hand?
switching up the sets per night.
I think you have to provide something different 3 nights in a row, but I think people need to expect consistency on those nights. That was one of my biggest battles with managers was you do 7, 8, 9 Saturdays in a row. The shit's rocking. The bar's packed. Everybody's making money. And then they want to change it up. And I used to say, guys, your DJ is an expansion of the experience this bar is looking to create, if not the main thing they are trying to experience. So if you have people that come in every Saturday night expecting something that they're enjoying, then why would you make that change? I mean, Bar Rescue, everybody's seen John Taffer. He would say the same thing. Why would you change a good thing? And it boils down to the mentality of the people that run these places or own them. At the end of the day, they are small business owners that want to take their playground and make it their own. And that's respectable and that's fine. And it took me a long time to learn that, you know, and that's why we always have the challenges. And so if you're DJing at a place that wants to always change it, people don't know what to expect. How many times have we been at clubs where, you know, a group of girls walks in and they're expecting this, and then 10 minutes later they leave because you're playing that because the new guy told you to. I mean,
I think, you know, with Dahlia and Sway and before that when I was at Social, every night was branded a certain way, so we had direction.
that's important.
So it's important, and that helped people not be as confused when they come out. But I will agree with, you know, sometimes it just depends on the mood of your boss, your owner. If he wants to hear something, or he's got a big party with him, or a big spender that, you know, wants to hear a little bit more of a direction, you got to be ready to switch it up. And at the end of the day, that, you know, a good open
that's
format
a skill that
yeah,
people need to
exactly.
learn.
And you need to welcome it instead of having like it seared into your head, like, oh, thank God it's house night, you know, and you know, just be ready to be an entertainer and perform whatever you have to do.
And I agree with that too. I think the issue is when the expectations ultimately always fall back on us for the failure. That's where over the years I've learned to set up front, like, hey, listen, I'm going to tell you what to expect. And I actually made a comment on this last week about DJ wins. Have you ever heard me say that term before?
DJ wins?
Wins? Okay. So
be a great DJ name though.
Oh man, I'll tell you, I talk a lot in my sales process using metaphors and similes because I learned a long time ago, you take something unfamiliar and you attack it with something familiar. So I like to use a lot of those examples. And a DJ, my cat's driving me nuts. Sorry, I'm reaching down trying to get him to go away. So go away. So when I got on the cruise ship, for example, I had to educate them and set the right expectation because this was a cruise ship that had a very older age demographic in their 50s that doesn't dance as often. So when he came out and said, you got to keep this dance floor packed, you got to keep it rocking. I'm like, the prior DJ told me you've had about 7 people per night in this club on average. So a better expectation is to look for what a DJ win is. Now dancing is a win, but so is that guy head bobbing at the bar. So is that girl tapping her toe on the floor. So is that guy that looks over his shoulder when you play that song and turns back because you hit a nerve. All of those are wins, and all of those keep us working. Because when you asked that question a couple of weeks ago, yeah, I do talk a lot, Kyle, but it's important shit, man. When you asked that one question the other day, do you play in front of a bar where nobody's there? How do you manage what you've done? What's that feedback like? And you look for those wins, those toe taps. People actually visibly responding to something, you know, and he immediately was like, man, that makes total sense. And so, you know,
and I think you make great points, bro. You got a lot of experience, and I think you've seen it all. I think you've dealt with different types of owners, different types of bars, different types of situations, which makes you, it's incredible what that does for your ability to switch it up and make the right decisions and not make mistakes. DJs don't always get the recognition for playing a really good set, but they do get a lot of shit for playing a bad set. But that's part of the job, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that if you play a bad set that your job is on the line. I would say if somebody says that you play a bad set, try to get extract more information.
Exactly.
Like when somebody criticizes a set that I play or a song that I make, I'm like, well, can you explain like what part of that you don't like so I can get better? But I mean,
sorry, Coach James.
No, go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Cody, I want to bring this back to you. You started us down this path. Like was there a time that you realized that you were playing similar sets, or did you just say like, man, like what did you start doing to like, you know, make sure that you were changing up? Was it like going through histories? Was it like, you know, going into the night saying, okay, I want to play a certain amount of throwbacks tonight or a certain amount of hip hop tonight? Like, what did you do?
I will say it began, I think, honestly, when I was opening at Sway, and for a while I was doing okay, and then I started struggling. And then I think at one point I had a really good set one night, and then not song for song, but for the most part, James, I don't know if you remember this because we talked a lot about it, and I was trying to get out of this rut. I could not figure out how to do as good of a set with different songs. And at that point, you know, it was so early in my career and everything like that. So there was that part, and I didn't really understand how to fix it. I just didn't have the experience. I didn't have the knowledge and everything like that. When I moved back up towards campus and Bullwinkles, I would say about after a year of having my own night, where I was looking at all my histories of everything, and I was just like, wow, like I'm playing this song every single week. I'm playing this at it every single week. And finally got to the point it was like, okay, like just everything needs to switch. So, because I had some folders that were the songs that I would like my go-to songs for bowls. So like in case I got in a rut or I think it was either Gonzo or Flair. I think you guys both use it, like Gold Records or no, Flair use was it left turn songs or right turn songs or something like that?
I would use that term. I call it a left turn versus a right turn.
Yeah. So I had a bunch of those, and as the list kept growing, I didn't even realize for a while I would go an hour into like just in that set, and I would do that every single night. And it was like, okay, just something needs to change. And then that's when I got rid of some of my folders, not necessarily my music, and just started, like I said, digging a little bit more and just organizing a little bit better. The more organized you are, like I'm nowhere near like Connor was on here a few weeks ago. I've seen his folders and it's stupid organized. And I think Mike, you're the same way. I'm kind of in the middle. Everyone has their own way, but the more organized I am, the better. It's just the patience of just sitting there for hours and hours and getting it to where it needs to be after years of it not being where it needs to be can be frustrating.
I used to tell you too, Cody, we used to make the one comment, you have a 66% chance of keeping your job at the end of the night before you even start.
Why do you say that?
Because there's 3 answers someone's going to give you when you ask, how was the set? They're going to say it was awesome, I didn't pay any attention, or you sucked. 2 of those 3 kept you working. So if you were great, awesome. If they didn't pay any attention, it's because you didn't suck. And that's where you could open the dialogue. Like, well, did you not notice this? Did you not see that? But, so for anybody that's scared of a night at a bar, I mean, think about that. You have a 66% chance of coming back the next time. As long as you just do what you feel confident you're good
You
at.
forgot a percentage.
66. Yeah. Why?
No, I got something for you. If you run out before they give you your result of your set,
there you go.
You get rebooked.
I will say, I will say, when I was at Bulls, though, the general manager, Matt Bean, he's one of the best managers I've personally worked for. And if he didn't say anything about my set, that means I did a good job.
Win. There you go.
That's it was an absolute
my boss
win.
is.
James, do you have any more questions for these guys? I want to flip gears a little bit.
I mean, we've had so many good memories, playing at Patio, and we really rocked Park Street Complex, and a lot of the DJs listening to this podcast right now did. I won't forget the memories, guys. I know we could talk about Park Street Patio and all that shit for a long time, but I do want to switch gears too. So,
well, actually, that's kind of where I wanted to go, because we've talked in past podcasts at least 3 times about finally going into like Corruption Productions. Birdman was there for Corruption Productions. Flair was, I was. So I think this would be a good episode, man. Why don't you just talk about how Corruption Productions started, like the glory days, and then kind of how it ended, because I think that could kind of be a model for a lot of the younger guys to put together their promotion teams and understand how to fill a bar, and then what challenges eventually led to that disbanding.
Yeah, I mean, it started out when I started learning how to DJ through Matt and Aaron and Samurai a little bit after, and I took over the back room of Sugar Bar, and I had been partying my ass off on OSU campus. I was also working at Hollister, and I just had a huge fan or friend base, and we were doing house parties every day, and it was just crazy. So I knew I could get so many people that weren't already going out. And I think it was just my first 2 times playing at Sugar, Swanson, one of the owners at the time, was like, dude, is this all your people? And like, I'm just like, yeah, it's cool. And then I started to realize, like, that's a good thing. Like, okay, so as I learn how to become a better DJ, and I'm not that great yet, I can at least get the support in here and learn as I go. And I think it just got huge, man, because I ended up connecting with fraternities and sororities at Capitol and Ohio State and you know, all those places. And then next thing you know, I have 20 to 25 promoters that are crazy connected. We got buses, we got the works. I mean, and then I found out what tools I had to play with. I found out what, Swanson, what are you going to give me to work for, or what are you going to give me that I can give incentives to my promoters, and so they can actually take this seriously. And it was enough, because when you're young, you just want to take care of your friends. That looks cool. And then that is how Corruption Productions died as well, man. At age, my promoters got older. It was harder. It actually lasted for like 8 years, maybe less, maybe like 7. But which is crazy, because you know, you have 4 years of people in college. I did re-up my promoters. I renewed my promoters. But then it got harder as I got older, and it got more stressful too, because as I got older, it felt like I was dealing with just young
children.
Yeah. So I eventually switched gears from it, but it was a huge step for me, using Corruption Productions to get to where I was. And when I finally figured out how to be a decent DJ, I was like, I don't need this anymore. It was fun. I did a lot of college parties. I was doing 4 college nights a week. I mean, we started Cantina, we started Saloon, we started Sugar 2, we started Long Street. We did all that. And since then, downtown's never been the same. Mm-hmm. So I look back on it, and I appreciate everyone that was on board with it. And I also appreciate all the DJs I learned from. I even appreciate all the shit I got, because it made me a better and tougher DJ. It made me learn how to be humble and take criticism. So the whole journey was huge. This was pre-production days. It was all about promotion. It was all about bringing people out. That was it. College nights were different too, because these kids, they didn't really pay attention to your sets. College crowds, they just come to get drunk, right? Mm-hmm. And dance.
Exactly.
And hit on girls. Right. Some of them do. Some of them pay attention, but not really. So you were able to just kind of experiment a lot, and I was able to find what exactly I really enjoyed playing. And then, you know, when you get to 21 and up bars, you don't need that whole promotion team, but I still had a few people hang with me, and, you know, I still wanted to have some support like that. So the Corruption Productions, I have it tattooed on my arm because it just reminds me of where everything began. Mm-hmm. So that was it.
I'll tell you, James, one thing, like, as a old guy here, I remember when your name and your crew first started to kind of make a scene in that industry. You know, I was like, I admired that, because us old schoolers, we would have our friends come out, and it'd be maybe 10 or 15 people, because we didn't have the social media and the tools that you said that Swanson was giving you at the time.
Correct.
So we never thought about taking it to the next level. So you were kind of, in my mind, one of the first, if not the first, you know, dare I say, digital age DJ, because you're obviously not digital age, but when I say that, I mean, you were the next one in terms of, you know, taking advantage of the MySpace and the Facebook and the Twitter and all these other things that this older guy, myself, and some of the other ones I knew with were kind of, you know, we were lacking behind on. So I enjoyed being able to kind of go along for the ride, if you will, because, you know, I had spent many years doing campus bars and moved my way around. And then when you had done the Corrupt Production stuff down at the patio and they expanded, you know, it was nice, because I had been at one point when it was Sugar in the back room when Samurai was up front. But now we were here and we were living the wave, and you know, your promotions was bringing all these people in, and then the DJs in the other rooms that were benefiting from all of this, you know, hosh posh and mixing and matching was, you know, it was a good time, man. It was
I wouldn't say you guys were behind on anything. I think before I came into the picture, promoting
it just
was not
wasn't
a part
done.
of DJing. It
Yeah.
just wasn't. It wasn't needed. There was promoters. There was
I
promoters that
remember.
handled all that stuff. So like when I first started coming to Sugar, before I even started DJing,
Mhm.
and I would just get a table and hang out with the DJs, I noticed like they had like 10 promoters and they had huge guest lists.
And one
And
of my best friends is Avi Rosen and Sean
yep,
Dolan. And they were promoting
Sean
like
Dolan,
crazy.
man,
These,
legend,
these
dude,
were two of my best friends in college.
legend.
But yet we never
Yeah,
thought about putting our talents together and like, hey, put me on stage.
dude.
Because Samurai was my boy and he was having a great time killing it. So we just, that's why when you came along, it was like, man, you could take the two and put it together. I remember, God rest his soul, Tyler, DJ 550. Okay.
Rest in peace.
When he was at Big Bar, and this was before Kyle got there. And I think, Mike, you might have been there with him at this point in time. And me and Matt and Aaron came in. And I don't know why they were changing things up, but I remember telling Tyler, I said, hey, you could either be a DJ or a promoter, but you can't be both. You have to work with the other one, because if you try to be both, something's going to suffer, because eventually age gets to you, like you said, Corrupt. And then the promoter is not as important because it's harder to get people. I'm 40. You think I'm going to be able to go down to campus and bring 22-year-olds out? Probably not.
Exactly.
So,
Well, so what I did is, instead of promoting to young college kids, I switched that same hustle onto just my brand.
yep.
And that way you're not directing your attention on, a theme party or something like that. You're literally promoting your music, your DJing style. But to get back to what you were talking about with the promoters, it's so funny because when I actually started building guest lists at Sugar Bar, Sean Dolan was like, how's your list getting longer than me? This is bullshit. And he'd smoke his cigarette. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Dude, it was so funny. Him, Chad Reedmiller.
Yeah, Chad.
Big shout out to
Legend,
Sam
man.
Henley. Sam
Sam.
Henley.
Yeah, Sam came in.
Yeah, Sam.
So Sam, when Corruption Productions was slowly fading away, Sam was my secret weapon because I saw the potential he had, and I was like, hey man, what do you think about Corruption Productions? You want to be my partner? Because I knew that because if I didn't take him in, he was going to just crush me.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just coming in. He was a very intelligent guy, knows how to socialize with people. And I miss the times we had. We kind of just split our different ways. But, I mean, he was like a best friend for a long time because we were
Always
working
together.
on everything. Yeah. But just crazy how life works. I'm glad that I'm away from the college nights, but I also appreciate what it did for me.
I think if I had to, and all the promoters know me. I have good promotion with like most of them. I have to give it to Sam. It's probably like my favorite promoter of all time because there was never any drama. He did his thing. He was effective. Flew under the radar. Like I think if you were a guest, you knew who he was, or like a DJ in the know. But like you couldn't pick him out of a crowd as like the promoter for the night. I don't know. I always thought I was respecting Sam for that.
Yeah, that's one reason I liked Avi, because he was the same way. People wouldn't have picked him out of the crowd. We were always so close, and it was because we were friends. Like other people took advantage of him and other promoters. You know what I mean? And you saw that happen quite often. So shout out to those guys.
Yeah, man. Avi is a great dude.
So, well, we've been talking about campus, Birdman. You've been doing a lot of stuff on campus.
Yes.
Ethel and Tank and A&R in Midway, they're doing some crazy stuff right now.
Yes.
They just put like phase 1 of that was remodeling Ethel. I want you to talk about like the remodel and kind of the vibe, because it's kind of cool what they've done. They've taken the Ethel and Tank kind of brand and really given it like life. So kind of talk about like the remodel and like what's it like to DJ there now after the remodel.
Yeah, I mean Ethel, it's cool. It still has the same vibe, but it's just revamped. So it's almost like Ethel 2.0. So it's not like we took I wouldn't say necessarily an older theme. I like the word vintage. I like the vintage theme that we did. I know Mike, you've been in there. I don't know Adam or James if you've been in there yet. So we completely redid the upstairs. We we've ripped out one big wall and one big closet, put like some kind of like more like older school TVs in there that always have like old shows running from like the 70s and 80s and everything like that. It's just more of that vintage vibe, and it flows so much better, from the furniture to the repainting of the walls to everything being done on the floors to the lights. The lights in there, they change colors with the touch of an iPad. You can have them rotate and everything else like that. So depending on the vibe you want, the time of day, how busy it is, you can kind of adapt and, make, just little things like that, make the most money out of it. So it's a lot more fun being up there. With that vintage theme, we also did new 1200s. And then we have, Chang got one of those old, like, I don't even know what the hell you call it. One of those mics that hang from the ceiling and you come down and pull it down.
Oh, that's cool.
So we have that in there. So it's just kind of the whole package. Everything, comes together and blends together. So that one's really cool. I know we redid 4th Street a little bit, and kind of updated that. Midway, we went over the specifications yesterday. I don't know really what I'm allowed to say. I don't know if it's a secret or not. I know they're putting a lot of money into it, and we're expanding it. We're redoing the bars. We're pushing out the offices, so we're pushing everything back. And the new design of it is it's incredible. It's going to make it a lot easier for the bar staff, for the DJs. It's going to flow much better for crowds. There's a lot of different stuff. And then once you get into block, we're really trying to take it up the next level. We're trying to make it to where 13th and that area is the place that you want to go. And then, you're looking at game days and everything like that. I know I haven't personally been to other college campuses on their game days when Ohio State plays, but I know a couple of friends that have, and they, people from other colleges say Midway block. They know what Midway is. They know what block is. So when we're doing, all these renovations and ramping it up, we want to take that next step and be known in the city for that. We want us to be essentially more or less an icon, really. We want to set the standard, and we want to hold that standard.
Yeah, kind of becoming like a national brand, like you said. Like people, when they, they're picking their football game schedules, like, okay, which away game are we going?
Like the varsity club, Cody.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, going to varsity club. So I want to talk about this really briefly, but then it got canceled. Bars were going to be forced to close at 10 p.m. And I believe someone from the Ohio State Judiciate shot that down.
Yes.
So I still wanted to talk about it a little bit. Places like LA, like the day party has been a thing for a really long time. I know Joey's been trying to do that here. Do you guys think that if, this is something that actually went through, do you think the day party would take over, or do you think this would be something that would hurt the bar industries even more?
I don't see day parties taking over, only because there's always someone who's going to complain. And the problem is no one wants to take on the liability, unless they want to rent our tents and chairs and such, right? But take, for example, I think it's the Renaissance downtown where Matt does his New Year's Eve party. For years, we've been talking about trying to have pool parties up on their roof during the summer. That would be a great place right now, day parties. But there's no way a business is going to take on the liability, especially if bars are being forced to close because COVID is more infectious at 10:01 than it is at 10 o'clock. So,
did anyone watch that press conference today with DeWine?
I missed it, but I've seen some highlights.
Okay, so obviously Ginther's plan got shut down. DeWine said that he is asking the Ohio Liquor Control to review basically what Ginther wanted to do in Columbus. So what he's proposing to the Liquor Control that starting tomorrow, so Friday, every bar anywhere in the state, you cannot serve alcohol past 10 p.m. People are allowed to sit there and consume it until 11. So in theory, you could keep the bar open until 11. You just can't serve after 10. So that's going before the Ohio Liquor Control tomorrow. So we may be back in the same spot on a much grander scale.
Yeah. What do you think, Krupp?
Look, Dahlia and the company that I'm with, they have a plan. But so I can't speak on other restaurants and bars, but I know this is going to hurt most. I get why they're doing it. You know, people are getting more drunk and being a little bit more reckless after 10. But I being in the industry, I just want to see the data of cases spiking after 10, or, you know, I want to see some sort of information where we can just justify everything we're doing. I think there's no way you're going to please everyone. I would not want to be the governor right now. I would not want to be anybody on his team right now.
Hell no.
No. So, and I would also be curious. I would also like to take a poll of the people that are, you know, promoting shutdown, promoting the curfew. Like, I would also like to know if their jobs are affected by this. I would like to take a poll and see whose jobs have been affected by COVID. Like, are you promoting the curfew, or do you support the curfew? Do you support the lockdown? Yes. Have you had your job during this pandemic? Yes. I'm just curious. Because a lot of people are going to be hurting from this, and I'm not even one of them. My company has a plan to throw day parties, and but not everyone's going to be fortunate. It's going to be crushing for a lot of restaurants. I mean, restaurants especially, like, you know, if people are having a late dinner, just want to hang out at the bar there. A lot of spots in the short north are already closing at 10 or 11 too. So it's just a handful of spots that would be really truly affected by this. Mostly nightclubs and you know, some of the bars like Novaks and stuff like that. So I'm anxious to see what the real solution to all this is, because I'm just kind of tired of it. Like, let's just pick a direction and go with it. But hopefully we don't go too far reverse, you know, because if we keep living in fear, I mean, this is just going to get worse and worse. So I'm, you know me, Mike, I'm literally, my number one passion aside from music and DJing is health and fitness. I literally try to help people every day. So health is a priority to me. At the same time, I just want to see the data. And you know, I don't look at social media statuses and read headlines and then make a judgment based on those. I try to educate myself and read articles. But, you know, if it works, it works. I'm a DJ in the nightclub industry. I'll be happy to, if it stops the virus and, you know, that's what we need to do, I'll be happy to lock down.
Yeah.
But I just want to see the full plan in place so I know that if I'm losing my work, it's gonna work. Like it's like the reason it's happening.
James, you got me thinking there a little bit with how you were talking about you guys have a plan in place and all that. And I think the hardest part is going to be convincing the consumer to actually change their mindset, because let's just say you normally have 100 people in the bar. Right now, during those closed hours with COVID going on, are you going to have 80% of them show up? So now 80, are you going to have 65%? So 65. So how many of the actual people are going to make their mental change and then feel comfortable to come out? Because that was the one thing that, you know, I noticed. Like, I went to Put in Bay a couple weeks back with Matt, and I was a little surprised at the lack of concern up there.
Well, I've heard I've heard what they're doing. They're partying their asses off up there.
Crazy.
But I can tell you that every bar is making sacrifices right now. They're rearranging the way their venues look, their capacity.
And
I mean, we have
the hard part, because you do that and then they're closing you down. You know?
Right. So we have like 50 different protocols in place at Dahlia, where you get your temperature taken. We sell masks. We staff somebody to go around and make sure people's masks are on. But look, if you go to a gym, if you go to a bar, you're going to run a risk. So you need to make a decision at the end of the day.
If you walk outside, if you check your mail,
you run a risk. So I get it. Like, I get it. At bars, there's a lot of socializing and, you know, so no matter how much protocol you put in place, but we're already making sacrifices. So when you talk about, like, is it going to work? I mean, it's something is better than nothing right now. We haven't been trying to fill our bar to capacity since before early March, you know. So we're just trying to adapt right now. I think nothing's going to be the same. If we can only have 5 tables on the patio to open, you know, that's what we're going to do.
You guys remember the movie Footloose?
Yeah, it's
That's
classic.
where we are. You're going to have to set it up out in the Hicks and have your parties out there pretty much because, you know, and to be honest, that's part of our selling point as a business now. Dock 580, a huge venue, closing. We had so many weddings that were canceled that when we finally said, hey, listen, why don't you just rent our tent and table and chairs and we could salvage the day? And then bing, we salvaged the day. So, you know, Footloose style. I think that's kind of the next, at least till next spring, we're going to be looking at in our mobile industry. And it's unfortunate for all of our friends in the bar industry because, you know, we've both pointed out, James, time makes it harder because we get older. And the longer this goes on, the more people are going to be less likely to want to, you know, I mean, maybe they'll go out. I don't know. Well, it's just, it's difficult. It's got to change the end user's mindset to feel comfortable enough, you know?
Well, look, I feel bad for all of you wedding DJs because I know that it's a huge source of income, and I already hear about all these. You know, I'm reading Matt's statuses. I feel bad. His clients are canceling here and there, and Rusty and my best friend wasn't able to have his big wedding.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's real. Everything that's happening is real. But one thing that stuck out to me, Andrew Yang, he tweeted today, was that this country is so like just ignores data and just would rather just argue. I forget how he worded it. That's not how he worded it. But it's just, essentially what he's saying is like we're more focused on arguing with each other than looking at data in this country.
Yeah, that's a nice tweet, but at the same time, like, you know, stats is literally, you know, I could say 150,000 people died from coronavirus, and one person could look at that stat. It's a fact. It's data. Well, whatever it is, it's believing the status quo. It's data, and one person could look at that and be like, hey, that's not that many people in comparison to 300 million. And another person could look at that and be like, okay, that's a ton of people in comparison to 300 million. So
Right.
I get where he's going with that tweet, but that is kind of
it's a broad tweet. It's a broad
yeah.
tweet. I was more focused on like talking about how people just are arguing just to argue. Like
you can't have a logical conversation with illogical thinkers. It just doesn't exist. And that's
I tell you what, man, there's a reason I keep my opinions off of social media.
Yep.
I mean,
sometimes I apologize for that.
No, man, it's okay. Like everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and if you want to share it, that's great. But just because you have an opinion on something doesn't mean everyone else has that same opinion, and it doesn't mean it's right. And it's okay to be wrong sometimes too. And I feel like, you know, if people are always set on what they post instead of just, you know, looking at it from different perspectives. I mean, everybody has a different situation in their lives right now. Some people lost their jobs, some people haven't. You know, some people are getting sick and some people aren't. Some people are getting the virus and not having anything happen to them. Some people are literally scared of it now. And I feel like your opinion is going to be based off of your situation, usually.
Exactly.
Some people are able to look at and think of others, but that's the world we're in right now. Everyone's going to look out for themselves, and they should. But, you know, just because your opinion is one thing doesn't mean the other person is wrong either. And I think that's a perspective.
Yeah.
I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about DJ mixes, guys, just to kind of get away from COVID for a slight minute. I'm sure we'll go back. But I was working on, I typically, every summer, I make like a summer essentials mix. I take like, you know, all the pop summer hits, put them into a mixtape, and then it's kind of just something like a sample. You know, you can put it on FLAIR before a wedding if it's outdoors, you know, something that I can just leave on. It's all the hits from the summer. And I was working on it 2 days ago, and man, I feel like the value of a DJ mix has just plummeted in the last 10 years. Like, you know, it was like something that like, okay, had a little bit of value even 5 years ago, but now, I mean, do you guys feel like DJ mixes have any value, and like where are you using them, and do you guys make them corrupt? I know you do Lost in the Sauce. And then Flair, Birdman, I'm sure you guys have made mixes before. What do you guys think the value of mixes in 2020 is?
I'm not going to lie. I mean, just for at least where I'm at, I can't tell you the last time I made one. And part of it, you can call it lazy, you can call it stupid, whatever you want. It's not on the top of my to-do list. I know obviously there's benefits for them, but I don't think there's benefits anywhere near as to where they were, at least when I started, which I know is only 6-7 years, which obviously that's nothing compared to you guys. But I know when I first started, and I first started, you know, trying to train myself and getting tips from everyone and everything, I learned from, you know, listening to, you know, the guys who were in the Red Bull 3 style. From DJ Trey's 2012's February set was one of my favorite sets, and that's when I really started practicing on how to blend just normal like top 40 with a little bit of dance and everything like that. And there were tons of them, and I would just listen to them over and over and over again, not necessarily to repeat what they were doing, but to start getting a vibe for it and getting a feel for it and getting a rhythm in my head. Nowadays, I mean, obviously I know, like, I like listening to the Club Killers podcast. I think, James, you were on one of those. I listened to it the other day. You did one a little bit ago. And I do like them. Don't get me wrong. I just don't, I don't personally make time for it.
I'm going to sound like an idiot when I say this because I just made one this week, but I think mixtapes are stupid, honest to God. I only did it because I was bored. And I was like, you know, I heard 2 of those songs in that mix on the radio, and so I threw one on. But you know, I might have a different opinion of others. Like James said, people have different opinions, but I think mixtapes are kind of stupid. I think they all sound the same. Maybe, you know, a little bit different because of the music you chose that time, the additional scratches you threw in that time, maybe a couple sound effects, but I don't know. I just feel like the only real value you have, like I made a Michael Jackson mixtape after he died, and I took and burned like 100 copies of this, and I took it to a bridal show, and I handed it out like a business card, and I got a boatload of weddings back then. So that maybe, but you know, just the one I put up the other day, I mean, it ain't going to get me any business. The only people that ever listen to it are my friends and the ones I give it to. I'm not trying to light the world on fire. I just want something on my phone that's mine that I could jam out to when I'm working out or out in the backyard. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of why I make them. But I like Cody. I don't have time. They're not on the top of my list. I made a lot more 20 years ago when I started because they're kind of like resume things. You know, you could give them to people perhaps that might want your business, and you could still do that. But I don't know. I just don't think I've seen the return on the investment, which isn't a lot, but I just haven't seen a lot of return on it. So,
I mean, it just depends on who you are. I mean, you know, I will say I'm very blessed and very fortunate that, you know, I had Bullwinkles for as long as I did. And as soon as that was no longer a thing, I picked up A&R with Chang very quickly. So if you're into, you know, especially for younger DJs and everything, I know that's one of the reasons we do this is for people to learn tips and, you know, the younger guys to hear, you know, what we should do. It just depends on who you are. So if you are trying to get a gig, make a 30-minute mix, make a 15-minute mix. Perfect example, James, when I was first starting, you told me, you're like, send me one of your mixes. And if it would have been absolute dog crap, I wouldn't have gotten the opportunities that I did. But that was a good step in. I was able to send it right away. It wasn't like, oh, let me go record this real quick, because then that right there doesn't even show any initiative that you did it beforehand, that you had been practicing.
I like what Ginsu just said. You do the mixes for the heart, man. You do it because you just decided one day you really want to throw a bomb-ass mix together, you know, and if someone does ask you for one like James does, then you put it together as a business card, if you will. But, you know, and for me personally, I've been doing it 22 years, and I use this phrase in my selling. I go, the guy who's been working at a job for 22 years probably has the blankest resume in the room. Why would he need a resume? He's had the same job for 22 years. So when you look at it from that angle, well, that's why I don't have as many mixes online as the guy who's been DJing for 3. I don't need them. So
fair.
What do you think, James? You still do your Lost in the Sauce mixes, so you got to find some return on investment in that, or do you just do it for the love?
Well, exactly. So with Lost in the Sauce, there's two things. One, I play almost all house music, and before that it was all electronic music. So I don't always get to play like that in the clubs, and I do produce like that. So it's a way for me to show people that and brand my production side of things. And then I have guests on, which allows me to interact and show some of my favorite DJs that I've met, and it helped build my mixes. But one of the things, to go back, I think when I used to listen to mixes like years ago, it was a part of that DJ's branding and kind of like a flex, I guess. And now there's like 10 times more DJs, 10 times more mixes, especially right now with a lot of DJs without work. They're doing a lot of live streams, or starting new mixes and stuff. So podcasts. So I don't mind mixes. I think the Club Killers ones are crazy good. If one of my favorite electronic guys puts out a mix, I love it. I get excited. But when it comes to just putting out an open format mix, I think some of us older DJs would like it, but I think I'm with Flair. It's almost just make it for yourself, and if you need to put like an hour on before your set or something, there's some benefit to that. But the mixes are still good.
I get excited when some guys release them, and then that's when it's like, oh man, I need to make my own. And then you're like, oh, God damn it, I can't even get 20 minutes in without screwing up. And it's an hour in, you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I think
what
works best is recording your set. Just record your set.
I think there's a lot of benefit to that, and Mike will agree.
I record every set I do, every single set.
That's awesome.
So might delete it 2 days afterwards, but I will record every single set I do, and sometimes I'll even listen to it in the car on the way home just to see what it sounded like. Straight up, turn the laptop on, hit Serato.
Time to listen to how awesome I am.
No, I just want to listen.
I'm just kidding. I know, I'm teasing.
Yeah.
Actually, no, since you said that, I got to bring it up. There was one time I may or may not have been throwing a house party after a set at the club, and Corrupt had come over, and I knew he was coming over, and this was the first time he was over my house. I'm like, you know what? When he comes over, I'm going to have his mix playing, and he's going to like that. And then so party's going on for like 20, 30 minutes. And he comes up to me. I'm like, he's like, hey man, this mix is really good. I'm like, bro, this is your mix. So as far as like hopping on your
I
mix,
remember when that happened, and I was like, you're a really good guy, Mike. Like,
yeah. But I thought that was funny.
I had a same story happen. I was prospecting probably 15 years ago, and I think it was Caribbean Jerks. Is that the one up on Polaris Parkway? I think is what it was. I don't remember the name of the bar, but I go up in there and I hand in my press kit, and they're playing some background music, and I hear, "You're in the mix with DJ Flair."
Yeah.
And I look and I was like, "Who's your DJ?" And I forget who it was at the time, but it was someone I knew that I had given a mix to. And I was like, "Oh shit, well that's me actually playing right now." So
there you go.
That was a really weird. Yeah. So I mean, there are benefits to giving it out for the branding, like you say. You know what I mean? For sure.
James, take us into show and tell, man. I think we're ready.
Damn it. What is Bryson saying? Rat tail? I'm not growing a rat tail.
I think if he gets 1,000 likes on his post, then he's going to grow out a rat tail.
Oh, I'm in there. Trust me. I'm going to like that.
You can only like it once. I tried to do it more than once.
Okay, yeah. So guys, we've been getting real interesting with the show and tell. We got
sure have.
We've had some amazing I think Duct Tape was the baby on the way. That was the best one so far. But we've had a lot of DJ gear shown. Something that's significant to you, doesn't have to be DJ related, but something you got around you, sitting around. We'll start with Birdman looks confident. We'll start with DJ Flair.
I have my national championship ring.
Nice.
Ooh.
As I mentioned earlier, I was a gymnast at Ohio State. So we won the 2001 NCAA National Championship. The best way to describe it is like winning the Final Four of men's gymnastics. And it's funny because we won this in 2001. And up until that point, Ohio State, many people don't realize, didn't have a lot of national champions in any sport. The only team that had done it was men's gymnastics, 85, 96, and then my team in 01. That next year, Tressel and Craig Krenzel and Maurice Claret won that 2002-03 title. And it was like, gymnastics who? You know, because for about 6 months, we were riding high. And it was cool because I actually got that ring on the field in the season that Ohio State went 14-0.
Nice.
That's
Does
cool.
it get you free drinks? Has it gotten you free drinks?
It has.
Back in the day.
It did. I can tell you that it has landed in between somebody's eyes once or twice when I've thrown a punch.
Okay.
This was at Sky Bar. Gonzo, you were there? You were DJing that night. We had a couple. I was older at this point. You know, I was off the team, probably 04. And we had a couple younger guys there, and somebody got in a fight with one of our guys and left an imprint right in somebody's face. So not a proudest moment after a couple shots of alcohol, but, you know.
It says Big Ten right there.
Pretty much.
All right, Birdman, what you got?
Mine is nowhere near as cool, I guess, in that sense, but this is one of my childhood baseball gloves.
Nice.
I take it with me, not everywhere I go, like every time I get in the car, but, you know, from apartment to apartment and everything like that. It's big just because, you know, some of my best memories as a kid growing up is, you know, playing baseball in the backyard with my dad. You know, he's my biggest inspiration. He's my hero and role model. And it's just a friendly reminder. You know, obviously we can't throw near as much. You know, he is getting a little bit older. I think he had to call off work today literally because he had back problems. So I'm sorry if I'm embarrassing him. But yeah, it just brings back a lot of good memories. And, you know, some of my favorite times as a kid was being on the ball field and pitching and everything else like that. So
you weren't a catcher?
No, I was a pitcher and first base.
Nice.
I couldn't really throw fast. Like
Have you ever hit a home run?
I want to say yes. I hit an in the park home run, which I think is more impressive. But
I think Cody got hit in the head by a pitch one time too, didn't he?
I'm sure more than once, based on the way
that explains a lot.
Oh my God, yes.
There it is.
Hey, that's cool, man.
That low-hanging fruit.
Flair, what's the cat's name?
Maverick.
Nice. Hold on, I got Felix here. He's pissed.
Goose is hiding somewhere. Mavericks just won't leave me alone. This is Maverick, everybody. He's a little shit. So, Felix. Maverick.
I'd set up this podcast in my office because I got 2 basset hounds that howl at everything in the window, and that's all we would have heard if I would have done it in there. So
well, we appreciate that, man. Thank you for thinking about us.
Absolutely.
First sporting item.
I know.
First sporting item. That's pretty good. First ring.
Yeah, I think
I like it. It's good.
Yeah,
all right, go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
It was a toss-up, man. I didn't know if I was going to do that, or I had somebody put together a book of postcards that I sent home when I was on the road.
Eric, I graduated Pickerington in 05. So if
Eric's trying to say I'm old. That's what he's saying.
Oh, okay.
Since it was 2001 college national champions.
All I know is Pickerington dominated Reynoldsburg in football. But anyway, yeah, back to you, Mike.
Yeah. I was gonna say we got about 18 minutes until Corrupt's trip to Verdansk, so I want to make sure we get everything.
Oh yeah, bro, it's going down.
Tastemakers, what is a song or album you guys have listened to in the past week that you're really feeling? And I'll start. I've been listening to a bunch of music, and nothing's really been hitting super hard for me. I went and listened to some of the ones that you guys had talked to about last week, and that's really been all I've found music-wise. What do you guys have been listening to this week?
I've been hooked on, and I know it's not new, but I've been hooked on the Excision and Illenium back-to-back set from Lost Lands. It's one of the wildest sets that I've ever heard. I didn't go, unfortunately. I regret it, look, now that all those sets got released during was it Couchlands or whatever it was during the pandemic, they started playing all the old sets again. But it's great. If you want to be a sad boy, you can listen to it for Millennium. If you're on the way to the club and you're trying to get hyped up, before you start DJing, you're kind of tired after a long day, then you can just blast the Excision parts of it and just, you will wake the holy hell up. But it's just a perfect blend of two different complete genres, from headbanging, hardcore dubstep and trap to, bass to melodic trap. It really is the perfect blend. Them thinking of that they're absolute geniuses.
Yeah, very cool styles.
For me, I might be different, but I don't listen to most of the stuff I play, if I'm being honest with you. 95% of what I play is open format, which means I play about 95% of music, minus country and rock and roll. So
I love country.
I mean, I love both of them too, but I don't play them in terms of DJ stuff for the most part. So for me, you know what I listen to? I listen to rock. I listen to Led Zeppelin a lot. My favorite station is Classic Vinyl on iHeartRadio. Runs through everything from Zeppelin to the Stones through Beatles, all of it. So that's my cup of tea when I'm not like DJing. You know what I mean? I want something more laid back to feel the guitar grooves and the drum hits, and sometimes I get motivated. I wish that I was a better producer, because I would love to take some of these things I hear from back in those days and throw them into some production stuff. So if anybody wants to team up, man, I got tons of ideas. So
cool. Corrupt.
Eminem, Slim Shady. I'm just kidding.
I'm even waiting to say that.
No. So
Justin Bieber.
I gotta give a shout out to. Do you guys know who Kazes is?
I do not.
Is the editor, producer, but he has a radio podcast, and Justin Nice and Dominic Parisi have a alias called Beach Boys.
Yes.
And they did a episode, Rinse and Repeat is what the radio is called, and they did a mix on his podcast, and it's really, really good. It's really good dance and pop house, tropical. So give that a listen. I can get you the link to attach to the mix, or to attach to the episode.
Sure.
So I don't have any new releases of music that I've been liking. I've been listening to a lot of throwbacks lately. I play different as well.
Birdman, Flair, you guys still with me? I think we lost Corrupt.
I'm here.
All right.
I'm good.
We'll assume that
Down
he was listening to some good music.
You must be rocking that, Justin.
Actually, now that I think about it, I was listening to the Spotify Top 50 the other day, and I accidentally listened to like the new Taylor Swift album just because apparently she released something.
Mm-hmm. Out of nowhere.
It probably is decent.
Yeah. Dude, her stuff is good. Like she is one of the best pop artists.
Crazy ever.
I think I can say that pretty confidently.
Yeah,
so I'll wait for Krupp to get back. While Krupp's coming back, though, I want to move on to tips for listeners. You guys both watch podcasts, know how important this is to me. Yep. Birdman, I want to start with you. When you asked if you could be on the podcast, you said you wanted to talk about ego, attitude, relationships within the nightlife community. So what are your tips for listeners? What did you want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm by no means an expert on this. I'm still learning every single day. I'm still listening, watching, growing. But I will say that in the very beginning, like I said earlier in the podcast, I jumped through a lot of hoops that I didn't realize that I had jumped through. So, at that time, a lot of DJs, they would start learning on their own. They would kind of start at local bars and work their way inward while they build relationships, and they also get better, experience and technique wise. I just skipped over that, and I didn't even mean to. I didn't even realize that was a thing. And I don't get me wrong, I was very blessed. And then what ended up happening was, without me even realizing it, I started saying things. I knew what I meant, how I was saying them, but I didn't look at it from an outside point of view looking in. I didn't look at it from a direction of, if this person doesn't know me as well, they're going to misconstrue that and take this the wrong way. Confidence is going to come off as cockiness or arrogance, and everything like that. And it really, over time, it burnt quite a few bridges, some of them that are burnt for good. I've been able to restore as many as I can. But there's some that just, they don't trust what I have to say and everything like that. So while I do miss them as friends, it is what it is. You have to live and you learn. I'm much more careful about what I say on social media now, just because, for that main reason. I just don't want, I still voice my opinion. I still am who I am. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, that's okay. People tell me beforehand, people would tell me, oh, this person's running their mouth about you, so and so, blah, 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 and I would just clap right back, and then it would get back to them, and then everything just got misconstrued and twisted, and it just became a drama filled, for lack of a better term, shit show. And now someone will say it, and it's just like, okay, that's fine. At the end of the day, I'm working on bettering myself, but the relationships that you build, you just have to be careful with that. So anyone who is younger and learning, your confidence, it's very easy for it to come off as cockiness, because you have all these veteran eyes looking down on you. Some of them could either be worried about their job, not necessarily, but they're looking at it. In this day and age, everyone's a DJ. So every time they see a new face, they're like, oh God, what is this kid? Or who is that kid? Or anything like that. So every little thing you can do to eliminate any negativity in their mind, you need to do it. So just be careful, mind your P's and Q's, and take care of your attitude, take care of your ego, and take care of the relationships with every single person out there, because you never know years down the road who's going to come back and might be able to offer you a job. When I first started at Bullwinkles and Midway were clashing on Twitter all the time. And I flat out tweeted at Midway, and I was like, I will never work for you guys, blah, blah, blah. And now look where I am 4 years later. Chang throws that in my damn face all the time.
Oh,
He's like, you want to go? He's like, you want to go back down memory lane, Cody? I'm like, no, I really don't. But it is what it is. So I wish I wouldn't have posted that. I wish I wouldn't have said that. There's bars that I would love to say that to now, but what's the point? It's not going to hurt them at all. It's only going to hurt me. And you just have to watch out for yourself while taking care of others at the same time. Be honest and be genuine. And that's going to get you so much farther. It may not seem like it, day by day or even month by month, but as the years go on, the relationships that you build in the very beginning are going to be what either make or break your career, especially in as big of a city as this.
Man, I wish we had more time this episode, because I would love to talk more about that, Birdman. I think you hit a lot of good points. Like, I think one question I wrote down for another podcast would be like, how to manage your social media as a DJ, because your personal page is oftentimes the same as your business page. And I guess for me, I think it's just, I try not to send anything out that if someone showed it to me, or if it showed up on the news, I couldn't defend it.
Right.
And I think, having a personal page versus a DJ page might be a solution to that. But thank you for bringing that up, man, and sharing, because I know that could be helpful for people. I know we talk about a lot of the positive stuff, so it's good to hear, some things that ended up going well for you after it went negative. But Flair, let's go for you. Tips for DJs.
Oh man, I'd go on for days. As you mentioned, I've been doing it for so long. I could probably tell you tons of stories and different things. But the one thing I would say, I brought up earlier, when I was 18 DJing, I had a teammate's mom look at me and say, you should just be a DJ. And I discarded that at the time. And I wish that someone had taken me, and Cody, I've known you a long time. We've had some very deep one-on-one talks about just that conversation you just
absolutely.
There. So I'm really glad to hear what you had to say. Proud of you too, because there was a little bit of me that did the same thing Cody talked about when I was younger as well. And I think it's something that we all have to learn as DJs. And as I've gotten older, to be honest with you, it becomes a little bit easier to spot in my competitors. When I'm at a vendor or we're prospecting, we now can say, man, case in point, a photographer who made it about him at the wedding. We're lining up the bride and groom. Everybody's ready to walk in, and the photographer Squirrel sees a fireplace, grabs them away. It's all about that shot instead of realizing you could come back to that. Right now it's about them. So as young DJs, we think too much about us, and we think it's about us, and it's not. It really isn't. And it takes a long time to learn that, some more than others, longer than others. And I use this stupid, I've been saying it for 20 years, statement. You can either be a DJ that gets paid, or you can be a DJ that gets laid. If you want to get laid, play whatever the hell you want to play in your basement all day long, and somebody will love you for it. But if you want to get paid, learn what others want, and learn what others like, and learn what others tick to, and how to produce DJ wins. And then, ironically enough, you'll get both paid and laid. You know what I mean? And so I wish I had early on in my DJ career figured out sooner that this was what I was meant to do, and this is what my destiny is. And then maybe I could have gone on the cruise to Florence a lot sooner or more often. That was a blessing I was given after many, many years of being a DJ. I got that opportunity. Shout out to DJ Dana. You need her on here if you haven't had her yet.
Episode 3, I think she got.
She was on here earlier. She helped me get this opportunity. So, so I would say for younger DJs, man, there's so many opportunities out there in the DJ world that it's okay to dip your toes in everything, but really get a grab on something. And the earlier you can do that, the better you're going to be. You know, like Mike, I know you do a lot of similar things that I do in terms of your business. You know, you've created a mobile team and all that jazz, and it's fantastic. But I'm envious because you're younger than me. So you got started a little bit sooner. You know what I mean? And those are years that we've already explained I'll never get back. So I'm glad I look young because it helps, you know, but when you're a DJ, you can't live in this world forever. So you have to get your claws in other areas so that you can, because, you know, most people don't know Mike G was one of the best DJs in the city long before he owned half of the city in bars and clubs. You know what I mean? Swanson was one of the best promoters in the world, as far as I'm concerned, before he bought into these places. Mm-hmm. Because when I was 18, I didn't start on the tables. I started on a microphone at Red Zone for Swanson and Corso back then. So, you know, I was hyping up DJ Tommy D up in the, you know, so a lot of those older guys were doing other things before they're doing what they're doing now. So I would say to younger guys, get your feet in early, learn what you want to do, and try to branch out to make sure that you don't, you know, rely on one thing, because look what's happened right now. That one thing is gone.
Like it.
And then we're running out of time, guys. Where can people find you online? What are your social media handles?
Cody, you want to go?
Oh man, I don't even remember all mine. I think my Twitter is at DJBirdman1. The guy who has DJ Birdman hasn't posted in 7 years. I messaged him. I was like, bro, I'll pay you $20 for it. And he's never even opened the damn thing. So I think I'm stuck with that. I think I have Birdman4811 on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook should be Birdman4811. And that's pretty much it. I couldn't even tell you my SoundCloud. That goes back to the whole mixes thing. Last time I made a mix, I couldn't tell you, so I don't even know what my SoundCloud name is.
That's funny.
DJ Flair, what's up?
Yeah, so much like James said earlier with branding, you know, DJ Flair is what people call me. Flair Entertainment is the name of my business. DJ Flair is kind of what I've led with because it's branded better than Flair Entertainment. So you can find me anywhere by just searching DJ Flair, F-L-A-I-R. But primarily I'm on Instagram, DJ Flair1. And on Facebook, we have our business page, DJ Flair Columbus. But, you know, my website is musicwithflair.com. So, you know, most of my stuff is primarily based on weddings and private party bookings and such now. So that's where you would find me there. I do have mixes on Mixcloud if you search DJ Flair. But again, you know, my focus has mainly been on that wedding stuff with musicwithflair.com.
And guys, big shout out to 614. 614 partners with us. And I'm going to remember the word this time, James. They do really great apparel, bracelets, T-shirts, all stuff that's very Columbus based. So we try to give them a shout out every episode. And as I was talking about earlier, Intel released clips And I actually found that out by MailChimp. DJs, if you do not have a MailChimp, and especially producers, if you release a project, if you have a song out, making sure that you get it out to your MailChimp followers is a really good way to circumvent the algorithms of social media. And I've talked about that before. And then I just want to know, do you guys have any shout outs to give before we let James wrap this up?
Shout out to my boss, Chang.
We don't need to shout out Chang.
Well, I'm going to anyways. I owe him a lot. He teaches me a lot every single day. Shout out to the guys I work with, Connor, Trevor, Mitch. Shout out to my mom and dad. I think they're still watching. Hi.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
And I think that's it for right now.
Cool. Flair?
I want to shout out to everybody that joined in to listen to me rant. Thank you, Kyle, for pointing that out. It comes with passion, man. So I want to thank the people that came in, but more importantly, I want to thank you guys because, what you're doing for Columbus by putting this podcast together is a really good thing. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And I think, you should not just invite the ones that you do know, but maybe invite some ones you don't, simply because I think it would be really fun to hear some things from people that maybe we don't know so much about in the city. I know you had mentioned, Tyler, you don't know, or mentioned that you, Mike, that you don't know Tyler too well. I think he'd be a great person to have on, especially with what he's doing for some of the artists that he's working with right now. So I think it would be great to see some other people like that too. I think it's fantastic what you're doing already, man. And I'd love to see some of the older people that may not be DJs, but like you said, maybe some promoters. Get Mike G on here per se, someone like that. Someone that we'd love to hear even older than myself. I'd love to hear Samurai talk. Yeah. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah, here's what I'll say about that. For anyone watching and who wants to be on the podcast, the best thing you can do is be a part of the show before you're a part of the show, right? Like we do this at the same time every Thursday. James does a really good job of following up on the Facebook chat, seeing who's in there. And then asking, Birdman, you were on here because you asked me, right? You said, hey, there's some things I want to talk about with this. I know you were watching the show because you saw that there was like something that you could add to the show and provide value, right? And it's not just to get on this podcast. In anything that you guys want to do, find a way to add value. And trust me, it's not hard to get on this podcast. Like you should just ask and be in the chat, show some love, and you guys can be on here. This isn't like a gatekeeper type deal. We plan on doing this for a very, very long time. We know how many DJs are in Columbus. Show some love and we'll give love right back. James has done that at Dahlia forever. He's one of the best in the city at just, giving people shots. I mean, probably second to Nick Reed. And I think, James, you'd say that even yourself.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
If you guys want to be on the show, this isn't like some kind of like DJ's club or anything like that. Like, just let us know. Tell us how you can provide value. And the easiest way to provide value is just being in the chat, showing up on episodes and then just letting us know that you're ready. Is there anything else you want to add to that, James?
No, we really appreciate you guys coming on. Like I said, one of my favorite things is catching up with everybody, and hopefully, it won't be a year before we reconnect, and hopefully, things will get back to normal sooner than later, and, we can start supporting each other better. But, we had some really good times, and I hope your guys' businesses get better and heal through all this, because I know that we're all struggling a little bit. So
for sure. Yeah, guys, thank you so much for being here and answering the questions.
Thank you for having me.
And sorry, James, we're a little bit late, but let's close it out. Guys, episode 17 is in the books. We'll see you next Thursday. If you're watching on YouTube, like the video so the DJs can find it, comment with questions, people you want to see on the show, and just anything you think that would help. And obviously subscribe to the channel if you want more gear reviews, Q&As and everything like that. But I think that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Peace. We out.
See you in the gulag.